Hello and welcome back to Sunny Isle. Today we're trading roads for rail as we take on one of the city's most anticipated projects, establishing our first high-speed rail line. For a while now, residents have been asking, when will the new rail connection arrive? And today we're finally answering that question. Currently, the city's outside connections rely heavily on an overburdened road network and underutilized shipping routes. Our local rail infrastructure is only limited to a small commuter line connecting the central harbour arm to the megaport in the south. But this old line isn't suitable for modern high-speed trains. And add to that the level crossing at Harbour Road and the bridge, which has become a traffic nightmare, causes regular gridlock. A few episodes back, a section of our local rail network was upgraded with a high-speed viaduct leading to the edge of the city, but the project stalled due to budget constraints. After a recent influx in residents and taxpayers, the city has been investing heavily in infrastructure, starting with the widening of the road through to Old Town and adding a new tram line. Now it's time to shift focus to the rail network and build a terminus station that will connect Sunny Isle to the outside world. Hi, I'm Scunny and today we're playing Cities Skylines 2, and I just love this area. I know that it was quite controversial bringing this road through here, but you just didn't see the amount of buildings I had to replace due to collapsed buildings after fires, so having this in here and having the fire station down here really has helped. But as you can see, we've got tons and tons of taxis everywhere. Since the new patch, I just feel like taxis have just quadrupled. It's crazy how many they are. I've gone through and I've updated most of the assets so that they've got the service parking. Although you won't see any at the taxi depot because they're all out clogging up the roads, of course. But I didn't change the custom rail depot. I'm hoping that I don't get any waiting vehicles here because I've seen a few people where they've got the 50 wagon train just poking out of the depot and it just clogs up the whole rail network. That'll be a little bit too much in my opinion. But if we can just get the little 2-car trains to park up here, I'll be pretty happy with that. Anyway, yeah, I want to put in a new train station. So this one just isn't fit for purpose. It's a good train station. It's right near the harbour, and we even got the bus taxi upgrade on the ferry terminal itself. Although it is a little bit out the way for most people, the busiest area for public transport is down by this rail crossing. So we've got a tram stop just on the opposite side of the road there. We've got a bus stop just on the side of that block. We've got another bus stop here, and the whole thing is just a little bit of a mess. I've got a taxi stand here, which a few people are using, but I do find that people are waiting for taxis in all sorts of random places, particularly at intersections, and it's just causing a lot of congestion. So if we can prevent any more traffic down here, such as avoiding any more train traffic as well, I think that would be a great solution. Now, when it comes to trains, I was thinking a few spots to place this, and I wasn't sure how big to go. We have a quick look at our train stations. So let's open the train stations. Let's just first look at this German one. So I was quite interested in placing this down. I was just thinking about the future of the city and how it could grow around such a large station. And what I like about this station as well is that it has an upgrade to provide pedestrian access at the back of the asset. So with this, we would get straight off the bat 5 platforms, and I think it has an upgrade for another 2 or 3. I'm not 100% sure. I think that might be a little bit overkill for this city, since we'll only have one external connection, and that'll be at the end of the island, probably near the border checkpoint. And we don't really have any other cities established on the map yet, so it doesn't really make that much sense to build something this big. I just really like the asset, and I think it would have been a great addition. And one of the spots I was thinking of placing it was actually on this section here. We've got quite a lot of flat land. It could be a good spot if the city were to grow around it, but most of our population live much further into the city. If we have a look at the population density, you can see we've got quite a lot of density down here, over here, and then especially on Mont Clementine. So having it all the way on this top corner without very much other public transport infrastructure in place might not be a very good idea. So another spot I was thinking of maybe just placing it right down near the Palms Times Square where we've got that level crossing. However, this would probably have to take out, I think, 3 blocks of mostly residents, maybe even 4 blocks, which it wouldn't be out of the realm of realism, because you can imagine in places such as Paris or London, they would have had to clear quite a lot of land to place these grand train stations. We're a much smaller city than either of those 2 places, so I think we'll probably go for something a little smaller. I think the French train station would be suitable for this city instead. So if we have a quick look over here, and I'm going to place this down because I think I am definitely going to be using this, but this will just be a temporary location. We have a quick look at this. So from the start, we do get 3 platforms. We've got 1 by the building, and then we've got 1 on either side of this platform here, with a spare track just to allow through traffic. We also get a few upgrades. So we've got waiting rooms. That doesn't give you any extra platforms. It just increases the comfort level. And it's a pretty affordable building as well. So we're not making that much money at the moment. A lot of our service upkeep is eating into our budget, so we need to kind of think about balancing that. And while it would be incredible to build a grand central station, I'm not ruling it out. I think we could build it in the future, but for now, this is a suitable size. And the spot I'm thinking is down here. We've got this parcel of unused land, which is in between an existing rail track and the river. The only issue is we do have a level crossing here that takes you over to the depot and then onto the viaduct. But I think with a little bit of work, we might be able to increase the height of this bridge, probably add an extra span onto it, and then bring it back down to this roundabout. And we should be able to create what is essentially a high-speed terminus with a through track. And we still need the through track because we do have the cargo harbour, so we do need to allow trains to come through here. And I would like to retain the train station on the harbour itself, and probably just reserve that for the local trains. And the high speed, yeah, so this is the local train, so this one can probably still continue to go through and ferry people, shuttle people back and forth from the new station to the old one. But yeah, the high speed will stop here and the outside connection. So yeah, I think this is a pretty good spot. If we just grab that train station and move it, you can see we could probably position it around here, and it would be quite nice to have the bridge overlap the station as well, just to add a few more layers to the city, because I always think that's quite nice. And then we've got plenty of space at the front of the station to build a public park, a plaza. And in addition to that, I'd also like to have a look at some of the land uses around here. We've got mostly low level single unit house residential, a few row homes, a few small commercial businesses. But I think once we've got that station in place, it really does justify us starting to redevelop the surrounding area. So I'm going to start by working on this bridge and then start putting everything into place. So we'll do a scrape and replace job with this bridge, removing the parts that we won't be able to reuse. I'll try to keep the main part of the bridge in place so that we get some sort of continuation of the existing infrastructure. The main issue is getting this over the rail line, and I think the optimum height is 10 meters. And having a closer look at the catenaries, I think 10 meters is probably the lowest you can go with these, not without it clipping. Anyway, we'll connect this up to the bridge and bring it down to the roundabout, and we'll come in with a little bit of move it and make sure that we can get everything level. And with all that at the right height, we can remove this section here and grab our arch bridge and bring it all the way across. And if we overlap the existing bridge, it should replace it with 2 equal sized segments. And I think this will be a good look for the area. And with the bridge in place, we can start to clear out some of the existing buildings. This was mostly single family residence, a few row homes, and I think 1 or 2 mixed use. So no biggie really. And we'll grab the train station, and the trick is to get this to snap to the end of the rail line so that we got a nice 180 degrees. Trying to avoid move it at the moment. There's a few issues going on with it. Not that I am a heavy user. I'm quite happy using the game's tools where possible, but there's been a few issues going on with it, so let's try to keep that at a minimum. Next up, we want to connect the tracks up to the main line and also reconnect the train depot. Now, trains exiting the depot, if they want to head off to the right side of the screen, they'll have to pull into the station and then reverse back out. But I think that's a pretty cool feature that we didn't have in CS1, and it's quite nice. Overall, the enhanced rail tools that we've got. While we're here, we may as well connect up the local line. This is one that takes you from the harbour down to South Bay and then all the way to the large cargo terminal. And we can start to optimize the road here, bring in a little slip lane. The angle's pretty sharp, so I wouldn't expect people to make that turn. And it's quite a nice little unique feature to the area. Now, I don't really want people parking on the side of the roads around here, so we'll replace the parking with grass verges and wider sidewalks. And the street along the station, we will creatively call this Station Road. And before we move on, I'm going to clear out all the trees, even the hidden ones that are underneath the assets, so that when we're playing around with invisible paths and net lanes, we can use the show markers function and we don't have all these random trees popping up everywhere, which I do find super annoying. Now with the space prepped, we can start to place down a park. Now, I really wanted to use an existing park so that we could take advantage of some of the positive attributes that it contains. So it has a well-being within a certain radius, but also it adds to the attraction in the area. And it is an attraction in itself, so you will see people visiting it and using the facilities, walking through it and using the hangout areas, exercising, laying down on the grass. And in addition to that, it'll also host homeless people, which I think wouldn't be that out of place, especially at a park near a train station. Following this, we can start to place down some of our pedestrian areas that will wrap around the park. Try to maintain nice green spaces, but the main function of this area is to help move people around while also being a pleasant experience. At the front of the station, we can force in a couple of crosswalks so that we can help people get across from the park to the station, and we can start to put in some of our invisible paths. We'll go to all corners of the park and also connect up to the park asset itself. And if you're planning on customizing these existing park assets, don't overlook the hangout areas. These are invisible, and if you're not careful, you might find that people will start hanging out in the middle of the road, laying on the floor, doing some exercises, and it can cause a lot of issues with your traffic. So it's just a simple little edit, which I think goes a long way. Alright, it's looking good. I'm going to start putting some foliage in. I had a really good comment on one of my previous videos about providing shade, especially in a hot climate like Sunny Isle. So we're going to try to use a few more shady trees around here. The map mostly comes with oaks and alders. I'm not entirely sure if they're native to the Caribbean, but it's all we've got and it looks pretty good. Alright, this park is looking pretty good. It's time to prop it up with a few park benches, dustbins, you know, the general things that you find in a park, and it really starts to bring whole area to life. And we're already starting to see quite a few people using it to pass through to get to the station, and a few people just enjoying the asset itself. I think this is lovely. Where we transition from the pedestrian areas to the sidewalk, I'm going to use some of these new custom props that Harbour Master J has created for Sunny Isle. These are bollards made of various existing props in the game, but there's 4 to choose from, and the one I'm using here does include a night light, but I do change this just to the regular small bollard. And to finish off the pack, we can just place down one of these lovely little newsstands, trying to avoid any of the hangout markers, couple of seats, little parasol, be a great little spot to grab a drink, newspaper, and just watch the world go by. Okay, so we've got the park in place, we've got the train station in place, and I think this just looks fabulous. It is a shame that we've got quite a lot of homeless people in the city, so it is filling up the park quite quickly. We have a quick look at our info loom, go to demographics. It's saying we've got 0 homeless at the moment, so I'm not entirely sure why we've got homeless people appearing in the park. Usually you see a few people hanging around if they're homeless as well, just loitering, but I don't really see anyone either. I really like this. It's come together really nicely. I like how we've got this section of the bridge, so you could look down to see if your train is arriving. You might be able to run and make it if you can make it down. I've got this little pathway that I put down here, which I made using, if you have a look in the, is it the landscaping tools? No, it's in the extra assets. If you go to net lanes, there's one that's called the gravel pavement transition, and this is a brilliant little net lane that you could use for little dirt paths. Look at that, and you could finish it off by drawing an invisible path over it. You'll see people using it, so it's fantastic. And if you need to delete these, you do need to go into Better Bulldozer and remove net lanes. And I think we need to select remove markers to remove the path as well. So it's a little bit more technical to remove it than it is to place it, but the result's pretty cool. I like that. I'm going to try to use that more often through the city. Was thinking of increasing the capacity of this road just so that we could maybe make use of one of the lanes as a bus lane. I have noticed that during rush hour, so it's currently 10 o'clock, we do get a little bit of a backup along here. I'm going to upgrade that, and we may as well just stick some grass on it, make it look a little bit nicer with some palm trees. I think that's always a good shout. And as you're coming into the station area, we now have this extra lane that takes you up to a bus stop. So if we head into the transportation menu and we select the one-way public transport line, we can just upgrade this side of the road. And then that should just allow better movement of buses through here if it were ever to start backing up down the road at least. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And I think along here we could actually downgrade the road. So we've got a 3-lane asymmetric road, but this section isn't really used that much. We've got 2 lanes coming out of this intersection, but we could probably just downgrade it down to 1. So we just grab that road and replace it. Let's grab a section here, and I just pull this out, and you can see if we go all the way up to the intersection, it creates a much tighter turning radius, but we just pull it away by 1 and we get a nice wider turn here. And yeah, I think this section would be a really good opportunity for some retail unit. Now, the zoning is pretty non-existent, so if we go in to find it, I did spot this Japanese asset, which I thought would look really nice here. Very small, very shallow, and we could probably fit a couple of these in and just create a nice little retail shopping arcade, which is going to benefit greatly by being near the train station. And yeah, I think this will look really good here. We've got a nice open pavement section we can decorate with a few bollards and some planters. And then beside here, maybe put a small little seating area. And I really like the look of these assets, the size of them and the scale. So I will go ahead and lock the building level on these so that they don't change. And using one of the new pocket packs that came with the detailers update, we can create a nice little seating area just along the road here. And now we can start to detail up the area with a few surfaces, some foliage and a few props. Here I'm using one of the semi-transparent gravel textures that comes with the extra surfaces pack. And what's nice about this is that you can just see the grass poking through. It's very subtle, but it does really elevate the texture of the tracks so it doesn't look as flat. And to make sure that the area is safe, we're going to use one of the industrial fences along the tracks here, ensuring that we don't have anybody wandering on and getting themselves into trouble. And while I was back in the surfaces menu, I noticed that there were some surfaces that were labeled track. And having a closer look at these, it looks like these are actually color matched to the same texture as the network tracks themselves. So yeah, a great addition. This looks a lot better than what we had before. Onto the other side of the road, we can clear out some of these buildings and start to put in some more mixed use assets, increasing the population density while also providing jobs and places for people to shop, eat and visit. And while we've got the space, I think we can definitely look at increasing the capacity of this junction using one of the new asymmetric roads from the detailers patch. This one comes with 3 lanes going into the junction and 1 lane coming off, which is really good at increasing the capacity of the road without necessarily increasing the width of the entire network. And to provide a bit of access to the rear of these properties, we're going to add an alleyway. And sometimes, not always, but you will find that some commercial properties will receive their deliveries from the rear of the property, even though the entrance is at the front. So this might help with some of the traffic in the area, but don't quote me on that. I've only seen it happen a couple of times. So I did have a little bit of an issue with the way these assets were facing, but with a little bit of patience and a little bit of bulldozing, we got there in the end. back to this nightmare intersection, and we just have so much traffic, so many people waiting around, so many taxis. If we actually click on one of these people, let's just see where they're going. So I think they are waiting for a taxi, but it looks like they're having to go all the way to Old Town, which is ridiculous. Like, why are they waiting for a taxi? They could just get the tram. Like, there's a tram stop right near where they're waiting, and there's a tram stop right there. So I'm not sure why some people are choosing to use taxis over public transport. I noticed that the connections at this intersection could be optimized a little bit. I think the vanilla connections can get a little bit screwed up, especially when we're using custom road builder roads. So using the traffic tool with the lane connector, we can start to customize this and hopefully fix this without having to completely rethink the area. And it looks like that's cleared out. However, looking at this time lapse, I've noticed that not one tram has come through this entire time. So let's take a look. It appears that there's no passengers on this line. So I wonder where the vehicles are. Oh, oh dear. It looks like we've got some sort of tram backup at the depot. I wonder if that's got anything to do with the new service vehicle parking. Now, we're playing a left-hand drive map, so that has always been an issue with the tram depot, but perhaps this new update to the game is contributing to even more issues at the tram depot. So I'm just going to delete these and try to clear out the blockage. Oh yeah, that's looking pretty good. No traffic at all, but we are getting traffic everywhere else. So yeah, this is just a backup of another traffic jam further up here. Yeah, this is pretty bad at the moment. So we've got 2 lanes heading into the roundabout, helping people go straight on. But they're a bit wonky, aren't they? So I think we could probably upgrade these, straighten them out just a little bit. So let's just turn off some of the snapping tools, and then we can just line that up nicely, I think. And the same for this side as well. And that should allow the traffic to flow a little bit better. And yeah, a lot of backups on this road. So I'm going to extend this asymmetric road just a little bit further along and see what that looks like. I think the main issue, though, if I'm looking at this carefully, is heading into the roundabout, you have to use the leftmost lane to go straight on or turn left, which is fine here because most traffic is either going straight on or turning right, so there's 2 separate lanes. But over here, yeah, this is going to be an issue because most traffic is probably going straight or wanting to turn left, whereas, you know, turning right, it's a country road. It doesn't really go anywhere that interesting other than the River Hill neighborhood. So perhaps what we could do is have a look at some of the new asymmetric roads again. We've got the 4-lane asymmetric highway, and I quite like the look of this one. We might lose a couple of buildings, so we'll just turn Anarchy on for now. And if we pop that in here, that should give us a dedicated turn lane for people entering into the city. But yeah, this building is sadly going to be lost. And yeah, we'll have to see if that clears up. I think there's issues all along this road. I think we will need to upgrade this in the future. Well, what do you know? It took a long time, but it cleared out in the end. And yeah, there's serious issues further down the road, which is causing most of the backups, but the roundabout itself is functioning really well. I really like kind of just upgrading things slowly. We could probably create a very complex overpass here just to allow the ease of traffic, but as I said, the problem isn't at this point in the road, it is further down, and I think that the simple changes we made with the lane math has really resulted in a more fluid intersection with the roundabout. The one thing that I would say we could do with improving though is the crosswalks. So we've got a couple of zebra crossings on the main road heading through the roundabout, and if I was a pedestrian, this would be the scariest road ever to try to cross. Yep, that looks good. And while we're not seeing that many people using it, I do imagine the people living here do appreciate having an easy way to get across. But yeah, the traffic hasn't really backed up as much as it had previously. So I think it was just trying to shake it all out the system, and I think this looks pretty good. Okay, so back to the rail line. We still need to set up the actual high-speed rail. So at the moment, we've got this running all the way through the map, and then we've just got it end in here. So we need to have a look at buying some new tiles. So the original plan was to probably buy these four, and while we could bend the track around and bring it into here, we probably just want to just go straight. So that is a cost of $1 million, which obviously is fine, but the tile upkeep is 94,000. So still pretty reasonable, much better than if we were to go around the mountain. So I think if we were to select these and this one, and then probably that one as well, tile upkeep is almost 50-60% more than what it would be if we were to just tunnel straight through. So I probably will stick to the tunneling plan, but maybe in the future we could wrap a nice rail all the way around here. But let's have a look at our budget, because we are losing money at the moment. And we need to make up around about 90,000. So we're currently losing around about 600,000. And it looks like most of our money is going to service upkeep. So let's have a look at our services and see where we're eating into it the most. And it doesn't surprise me that the transportation budget is pretty high. We do have probably more than what we need in the city so far. We've got 2 cargo harbors, we've got the ferry harbor, we've got quite a few cargo train terminals. Why don't we reduce this down to, let's say, 70%? So that does come down quite nicely. So that puts us in the green already. We don't really need to change anything else. Let's put that up to 80% then, and we could probably look at reducing the police and administration budget, because crime is just not an issue in the city, not yet. We're way too small. Pretty happy with everything else. Let's have a look at the budget overall. So we are in the green. We're at 700,000. All right, let's have a look at the mess we've just caused. So we've just extended that viaduct all the way out, and using the straight slope tool, it's just blasted its way out of this big mountain and created what is quite an impressive looking viaduct actually. And I quite like it. It's super high up, but it's not completely out of the realm of reality, especially for a high-speed line like this. I wouldn't mind a few pillars, a few extra pillars through here, but I think it is pretty cool actually. Alright, I think that's fixed it, and I really don't want to touch this again. I feel like every time I touch it, I break it, but nice, clean, sweeping curves, heading straight into that mountain and over the farm, and then into another tunnel. And then it just simply pops out here. We might want to add a couple of security fences, especially if we want this to be an international high-speed train. And I think to do that, there's some industrial fences. So the industrial high number 1, I think, would probably be quite good along here. And we can just simply go along the tracks, and then we could have a look at upgrading this area in the future. I think we could have another station on the edge of the city for sure. And this is far enough away from the harbour, or the downtown anyway. This could make a really good bypass stop for anyone that wants to get off before heading right into the city. And I'm not going to build it today because I think it'd be quite expensive, but yeah, I think this is looking good and I like it with the fences. I'm going to just put some fences on this section too, and then we'll put the line in. Oh, it looks like those little trains are using the depot now. Oh, lovely. Isn't that just adorable with the little pink ones just sat on the side? That looks good. Okay, I think we can finally draw our line in now, and oh, look at that. A little bit of traffic. Don't mind it though. I think it's all a part of the atmosphere of the city. And we might be able to reduce some of that traffic once we've got the line in. We might have a lot less taxis coming through here. So let's grab the passenger railway tool. So I'm going to put the high-speed train on the far side platform. So we'll keep the local one closer to the park itself. And then we can simply just select the outside connection, which looks like it's called San Cristobal. Lovely name. And then we'll bring that all the way back. And then that's in. So let's have a look at the line itself. Let's call this high speed 1, as we might want to introduce more in the future, I'm not sure. And we'll select a vehicle, we'll go for the passenger train. And this is just a vanilla one that comes on the European map, so it'll be using the overhead wires. And we'll start to play and see this come out. I suppose it's going to come out here, right? Okay, so we've got the train pulling into the station here. Probably not going to pick anybody up just yet, but let's just give it a watch as it heads out of town. Lovely stuff. Yeah, so hopefully that does resolve some of our issues. We'll have to keep an eye on it. I won't hold my breath though. But yeah, pretty happy with today's outcome. Lovely new addition to the city. High-speed rail is finally here. We can afford it. I think the next few episodes we probably need to take a look at the traffic. As you can see, it's getting a little bit out of hand. And whether we need to bring a new tram service through here or just upgrade the highway roads just in general. Let me know in the comments what you think we could do to help improve the situation. Let me know what you liked about today's build, or if you would have done anything differently. And we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.